everybody. It is an incredible day today. Today is Saturday, the 14th of November in the year 2020. Really challenging year. We got a new president-elect, President Joe Biden. Yes. And also Kamala Harris, super sister, is the vice president-elect. Today is a very special day. Today we are celebrating Veterans Day. And this is NNOA. Captain Rick Wright, your host, and of course on the board of directors of the National Naval Officers Association, where I serve as historian. Our broadcast is originating from Marcellus, New York, right outside of Syracuse, New York, and upstate New York. Well, it's Veterans Day, and today I would like to salute all of the veterans of the United States Army, United States Navy, United States Air Force, the United States Marine Corps, and the United States Coast Guard. And when we think about veterans, there is no person better than to bring on this broadcast than our veterans rep, an incredible naval aviator. He's brilliant, he's smart, he's rich, he knows everything. And of course, he's been around NNOA since the 1970s. And to our membership throughout the world, let us proudly present, as we salute veterans, our great veterans rep, Commander Ernie Taylor, United States Navy retired naval aviator wearing the wings of gold. Ernie, how you doing this morning, man?
Hey, Captain Dr. Rick, how are you this morning? I'm doing fine.
I'm kicking, man. You're sitting in a $9 million jet, man. This is incredible, man. There was a record by a group called Brothers Gonna Work It Out, man, you know? And we're working here in the year 2020. Commander,
I remember that song. I just wanted to do this one just for you.
Just for me. I mean, I'm impressed, man. This is fantastic. And of course, to all of our NNOA membership of the United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, Semper Fi, the always ready, the United States Coast Guard, members of the Public Health Service, and also all of our members in the Oceanographic Organization, we proudly salute you and welcome to this broadcast. I'm your host, Captain Rick Wright, United States Navy, retired. Ernie, you are the veterans rep for NNOA, and that's going to be our area of concentration today. But first of all, how in the world, this is a wonderful story, did you end up becoming a naval aviator? Give us your background. Where were you born, Ernie? What are those great schools you attended, man? And how did you make it to be able to sit in a $9 million jet this morning, man?
That was all pure magic, this one.
No, I love it.
But anyway, I'll tell you about it. Flying something I always wanted to do from a little kid, and they used to tell me that my first word was airplane instead of mom and dad, but that was just the rag in the family that they gave me. But I actually thought that, you know, to be a pilot, that you had to go to the Air Force Academy and go that route. And I had applied for an appointment to the Air Force Academy and got selected. And there was a little thing called Vietnam going on at the time. And it was kind of interesting because I'm thinking, sitting there watching the news with Walter Cronkite, that folks like me were dying at a higher rate than everybody else. So I'm trying to figure this thing out. So I'll go to the Air Force Academy, that'll be 4 years. And then after that, I had a 4-year commitment. So that's 8 years. That's like telling an 18-year-old, you know, a prison life sentence, you know, life sentence for prison. So I went and told my dad, I don't want to do the Air Force Academy. He said, fine, I'll give you $1 for every dollar that you earn to go to college there. And I didn't think that was a big deal because I'm figuring, hey, I could stay home. College is a little bit cheaper and I'll do it that way. So that's what I ended up doing. However, I had, while I was in high school, for my 16th birthday, my dad had given me a flying lesson. And he said to continue that flying thing that I'd have to go and get other jobs. So I cut grass and threw newspapers, babysat and did all that thing. So the same time I was graduating from high school, I was earning my private pilot's license. So I had my private pilot's license then. And I ended up, since I didn't go to Air Force Academy, I ended up going to community college. And then I got a track scholarship at Dillard University where I finished up my degree. But while I was there, I realized that it was gonna cost me another college education dollars-wise to get all the license other than my private that I needed to get on with the airlines. And the basketball coach at Dillard University was a naval officer. He was a campus liaison officer, as a matter of fact.
Captain John Brown.
Exactly, John Brown.
Look, hold it. Before we go any further, let's get I'm gonna get a geographical timeline. You're a great aviator. Now, you grew up in what, Louisiana?
In Miami.
You grew up in Miami, Florida. Okay, let's get, I
Miami,
want to kind of set the stage here. You grew up in Miami, Florida, high school in Miami too.
I did. Yep, high school in Miami. Miami Jackson High School.
Miami Jackson High School. Okay, we had Miami already. And you got to make that run across the Gulf of Mexico to get over to Louisiana to Dillard.
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
I just want to make that down. By the way, folks, this is NNOA, our weekly broadcast for the National Naval Officers Association. We're celebrating veterans this week. And of course, we got our great veterans rep, Commander Ernie Taylor, United States Naval Aviator, and he's given us a timeline of his wonderful life, born and raised in Miami, Florida. The Hurricanes, baby, come through there, you know. And of course, he ends up at Dillard, and he has brought up one of my favorite incredible mentors, Captain John Brown, who was the athletic director at Dillard University, New Orleans, Louisiana. And Captain John Brown and I, yours truly, Captain Wright, we were members of the Naval Campus Liaison Officer Program of the United States Navy, which was really designed to bring more of our people into the United States Navy as officers. So now you at Dillard. What a beautiful campus there. What happened?
Absolutely. The Avenue of Oaks. So John Brown calls over Navy recruiter and has him come over and see me. And the guy said, well, how would you like to be a pilot? I almost ripped my back pocket off getting my license out to show him, said, I'm already a pilot. He said, no, I mean a Navy pilot. I went, okay, so what do I have to do? And he went through the whole program. He said, well, once you graduate Dillard here, we can send you to Officers Candidate School. And then from there, then you go to Navy flight training and on your way. And at that particular time, I'm thinking that's great, because what that means is I can get the training that I need. I get the experience that I need. And more importantly, they're paying me to do that.
Yes.
So I said, I'll sign on the dotted line and I'll go to the Navy for 4 years. I get out and go be a commercial airline pilot. So I called up my dad and say, Dad, I just joined the Navy. I'm going to go to their flight training program. My name was Knucklehead from then on out, because he said, you could have had that from the beginning if you went to the Air Force Academy, but no, you didn't want to do that. You wanted to do it the long way. So of course, my plan was just to stay for 4 years, get out and then go to the airlines. But once I got into the Navy, the people that I met and the experiences that I had kind of changed my mind. So 23 years later, when I retired, I actually finally continued on and went to the commercial airline route. But NNOA was a big part of why I ended up staying in the Navy for those 23 years. It brings me to my first NNOA convention. I was a brand spanking new lieutenant junior grade with the Navy wings of gold on my chest.
Yeah.
And I talked the command into actually sending me no-cost TAD to the NNOA convention that was in Washington, D.C. in 1978.
Hey,
and that was my first introduction.
Let me stop you for a moment. I want to get that perspective down. Nair, you are a brand new ensign in the United States Navy. How did you learn about NNOA? Was it the message that went out to the fleet? How did you learn about NNOA? I mean, as a brand new, newly commissioned naval officer.
Well, there were a few other naval officers that were of color, and they mentioned this organization. Now, I got my wings in August of 1975. NNOA was formed when?
1972.
Exactly. So we were at the beginning stages. So that was the rage, the talk, right? And so I ran into a guy that was an instructor in Pensacola, and he was saying, hey man, the African Americans in the Navy are getting together and they're trying to make things better for folks in the Navy. And as a student, my primary focus was on getting through that syllabus and getting my wings of gold. So now in 75, I got my wings of gold. I'm in my first squadron, and I'm hearing about this conference that's going to be up in Washington, D.C. And so I actually talked my command into sending me no-cost TAD up to Washington for that conference, and they let me go. And that was my eye-opening experience, seeing other folks that looked like me. And I was just a lieutenant junior grade, and I'm walking and talking with folks that are lieutenant commanders and captains, and one or two admirals at that particular time. I think Admiral Gravely had just been selected for flag, and it was amazing hearing all of that stuff. So NNOA was the thing that kind of stuck in my mind at that particular time, and it was just amazing.
So Captain John Brown, my dear, incredible mentor, oh wow, found you, Naval Recruiting Command. Now you go to Naval, what's that, Aviation OCS?
Aviation Officers Candidate School in Pensacola.
Pensacola.
It's AOCS, yep.
Give our listeners on this wonderful, as we celebrate Veterans Day and Veterans Day week, Commander Ernie Taylor, what is it like to go to aviation officer candidate school, and especially the young
best description,
brother?
the best description that I've found is the movie Officer and a Gentleman. I say that now, and people are like, what movie was that? But the movie Officer and a Gentleman was the exact mold, I guess you could say, of what aviation officer candidate school was like, with the exception of that part with the drill instructor and
Luke Gossett,
right, and Richard Gere was the student going through there when they had that little boxing match. That was the only exception, because of course you couldn't put your hands on the candidates at that time, but you didn't think that was going to happen anyway. He'd kill you just by looking at you.
Outstanding. You know, Lou Gossett, I had a chance to recruit and teach his son, Sati Gossett, here at Syracuse University at the School of Public Communications. And Lou Gossett used to come up a lot and watch basketball games in the Carrier Dome. And we always talk about the movie An Officer and a Gentleman, where he won a super award too for that movie.
He did. Yeah. He did. But that was the best example of what it was like going through that program. It was interesting.
Okay.
No doubt about it.
You go through aviation officer candidate school. By the way, were there many other African-American brothers going through the syllabus, going through the pipeline while you were at AOCS at Naval?
It was basically a 3 to 4 month pipeline going through there. And there were probably about 3 or 4 other brothers that went through at the same time that I was going through, either a class ahead or a class behind. And we all kind of gave each other the nod, like, how's it going over there? You know, and that was one of the big things. One of the interesting things about it, they would say you could always find all the brothers there. All you had to do was go to remedial swim. And that was one of the interesting things there. I was fortunate enough, being in Miami, that swimming was part of what I did every day. I was a water safety instructor, and that was one of my summer jobs. So I didn't have as many problems as the majority of folks did going through the swimming program down there. But that was one of the interesting things. They said if you went to the Air Force, you didn't have to learn how to swim. How come the Navy says you have to learn how to swim? Of course, they weren't thinking about all of the times that we're going to be around water, and that was one of the instrumental things. But you can find the brothers there in Pensacola over at Remedial Swim.
You know, a historical timeline looking at the sadness of our country. And, you know, I grew up in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, home of the U.S. Coast Guard Navy, had big airfields there that I really enjoyed and loved. But I can never forget that we as young African-American kids, we were barred from going to the swimming pool. And they built a big new swimming pool, I never forget, in my hometown of Elizabeth City, North Carolina. And it was for whites only. And I mean, the fact I hear a lot that, you know, we as African-Americans can't swim, it was basically we were barred from the facilities to learn how to swim. And I think—
Well, I was going to say, it wasn't necessarily that we didn't know how to swim. We just didn't know how to swim the Navy way. That was the problem. If you pushed us in the water, we'd survive, but it wasn't the Navy way. And that was one of the issues that we developed, that found that was a contributing factor for the low numbers in aviation.
Well, anyhow, you got through the swimming and the dunker and all that stuff at Pensacola. You make that run now into the actual naval aviation pipeline to become a naval aviator. How long did that take you to get those Navy wings of gold, Commander Ernie Taylor?
This is kind of scary, because for me, from the day I showed up at Aviation Officers Candidate School in Pensacola to the day I got my wings was 14 months. That was almost unheard of, because there were pools that folks would go into, and everybody was saying, oh, you'll have a time to study once you get into one of those pools, because they were staggering how folks went through. So I actually got to the squadron as an ensign. And that was a little bit on the amazing side, because it took me only 14 months to go through from the commission program to earning my wings. And it was one of those things that I kept shaking my head, like, how did this happen? And the only answer that I can keep coming up was the grace of God.
And also, let me go back to that great HBCU university that you attended, Dillard. I want to put that statement on the table. You said you could have gone to the Air Force Academy, but God put you another direction. And of course, the incredible ability of our professors in historical Black colleges and universities that really got us ready academically, I'm sure, to succeed. There you got your Navy wings of gold. That had to be some ceremony, Commander Ernie Taylor. Who pinned those wings on your chest, man, from the family?
Actually, my wife was there to pin my wings on my chest, and that was fantastic. Mom and Dad were there, of course, and that was a interesting thing. Of course, that was a moment.
What a moment. And this is NNOA, the weekly broadcast of the National Naval Officers Association. I'm Captain Rick Wright, historian for the organization and the host of This is NNOA, which is produced by Roosevelt Reuben Wright III as we broadcast live from upstate New York. Ladies and gentlemen, Commander Ernie Taylor is on the table. He's in front of the microphone. He's sitting in some $9 million jet right now, private jet. I'm enjoying this. And this is an incredible moment here on the 14th of November in the year 2020. Now, Ernie, you got your wings. Isn't there a thing called a RAG squadron or something that you go to get familiarization? What kind of plane did you fly?
RAG is Replacement Air Group, and I went to VP-30 in Jacksonville, Florida to fly the mighty P-3 Orion.
That's the big four-engine airplane with the upside-down engines, right? The P-3.
I don't know about upside down, but compared to the C-130s, that's what they say. But my question to them was, if our engines are upside down, how comes our airplane goes faster? And they just couldn't answer that question with the same engines.
The aeronautical engineering design. The Orions, everybody, is designed to go. It's an anti-submarine warfare type aircraft, right? Commander Ernie Taylor looking for subs out there in the ocean.
Absolutely. And the time that I was going through flight training, the F-14 Tomcat was the Navy's premier fighter aircraft. So folks said, well, why didn't you go fighter aircraft? And my answer was, I chose P-3s because no airlines were flying F-14s, F-18s, A-6s, A-7s, any of those aircraft. I was looking for the multi-engine aircraft with the multi-crew that I could get out of the Navy and go to the airlines. That was my primary choice. And then once I got there, it was a change of mind, change of venue for me. I like staying where I was in the Navy.
Steady looking at the airlines, but you got your hands on the P-3 Orion. Man, that's a beautiful approach into Naval Air Station Jacksonville when you come across, the Interstate 95?
Yeah, and St. John's River.
St. John's River, beautiful. Oh, God, I love it there. Naval Air Station Jacksonville. So how long did you stay at NAS Jax, like in the RAG Squadron? You guys doing touch and go landings, flying everywhere, getting familiarization with the plane?
Yeah, the replacement air group is usually about 3 months, but my squadron, my first squadron was VP-24, the Batman of VP-24, right there in Navy Jax. So I just walked across the street once I left VP-30 into VP-24 there at Jacksonville.
Give our great listening audience this afternoon, Commander Ernie Taylor, a typical mission. If the stuff you can tell us about, that you don't have to kill us, that kind of scenario that we talk about in the United States Naval Aviation. A typical thing that might happen on a typical flight on a P-3 Orion. About, they say join the Navy and see the world. Did you see the world hanging out with a P-3 squadron?
I saw a good portion of the world. We had deployments to Keflavik, Iceland, Sigonella, Sicily, Rota, Spain, Bermuda, and lodges in the Azores. And from those spots, we had a pretty good vantage of a good portion of the Soviet submarine force. And that was the mission of the P-3, was to basically keep tabs on the Soviet and any other adversary for the country there, their submarine force, and also keeping track of surface traffic, surface ships, and where they were going and the things that they were doing. And so out of Jacksonville, we basically worked with the squadrons that were in Bermuda, and also a contingency of detachments down in Puerto Rico. And we kept a fairly good eye on the area there, training and also assisting the squadrons that were deployed. Typical mission was probably anywhere from 9 to 11 hours, depending on where we were and what the circumstances were. But I enjoyed it, and it served its purpose in protecting the country.
And by the way, the P-3's got all kinds of stuff. You guys got a shower on that thing. You got a galley. You got bunks where you can go to sleep and everything. I think I went on the P-3 Orions. In fact, I was telling you a story earlier, and I'll share it because he might be listening. In fact, I'm going to call him up and find him. General George Walls, United States Marine Corps. George was a young captain when they were establishing the Naval NROTC program at North Carolina Central University at Durham, where I got my master's degree. And when I was finishing up my coursework for my doctoral degree here at Syracuse University, I went back home. They asked me, hey, Rick, you got to come back. I went on faculty at North Carolina Central. This is alias circa 1972, 1973. Commander Ernie Taylor, and to our NNOA and our listeners this afternoon. I'm sure there are a lot of Eagles grads out there checking out the program. But they were setting up the Navy NROTC program at North Carolina Central, and George Walls, Captain George Walls, was a Marine Corps officer. We became just absolutely together, not realizing myself that I would be in a few years in the Navy myself after having grown up around it. I always say that Reuben Wright III's grandmother, Mrs. Lily Mae Wright of Elizabeth City, North Carolina. This is a gift to me from heaven, and I'll tell that story probably another time. But anyhow, the story is it's P3 time. I'll never forget George, Captain, who's now General George Walls, United States Marine Corps retired, called me up and said, hey, Rick, we got an airplane, a P3 from Pax River, coming down to Raleigh, Durham, the airport, and it's going to be with us for about 3 or 4 days to give naval aviation orientation to the NROTC units of the University of North Carolina, Duke, and North Carolina State, and North Carolina Central University. So we went flying every day. Commander Ernie Taylor, compliments of General George Walls, who's a member of NNOA, United States Marine Corps retired. Now, Commander Taylor, naval aviation. Were you always on the East Coast, or did you go West Coast? You know, we thought West Coast sailors or Atlantic sailors. Were you always on the East Coast, or you just did the whole world?
My primary tours were on the East Coast as far as P3 stuff, but of course, sometimes in your life you got to go to sea on ships, and I actually went down to San Diego, and I was a part of the great surface Navy out of there. I was a member of Cruiser Destroyer Group 5 staff, and we deployed to the Pacific twice, once as a Cruiser Destroyer Group commander, and second time as a crew cargo commander. Basically, we took the Benson carrier battle group to the Indian Ocean. So I had a little bit of sea time under my legs there, but primarily being that P3 officer. When I joined the Navy, I told him, I said, I'm joining the Navy, but I'm not planning to go to sea on ships. Wrong answer. I actually did go.
Well, to all our surface warfare officers, especially including our great president, Admiral Sinclair Harris, United States Navy, they always talk about the surface fleet, and we got a lot of great surface warfare officers all throughout the Navy. Now, Commander Ernie Taylor, we are celebrating veterans, man, Veterans Week. And we're talking about beautiful brothers and sisters of the United States of America who raised their hand and swore and took that sacred oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And of course, we're talking about members of the United States Army, United States Navy, the United States Air Force, United States Marine Corps, and the United States Coast Guard. You are the veterans rep for the great organization known as the National Naval Officers Association. And all the vets who have, you know, some have done a few years, some have stuck around for 20 or 30 years and retired. And a lot of them are all listening to this program on this wonderful 14th of November in the year 2020. Commander Ernie Taylor, what are your incredible efforts? What are the efforts that you're doing right now with regards to veterans representation from your incredible job and base and labor of love with the National Naval Officers Association?
Wow, no pressure, Rick. Thank you so much for that one. I have to tell you though, it's kind of interesting because NNOA started in 1972. We have probably as many folks outside of the military now, particularly the Navy, Coast Guard, Marine Corps, as we did in. And so now it looks like what the veterans mission is going to be is to continue the things that we started when we were on active duty with NNOA. We still want to support the services. We still want to recruit and retain quality individuals. And then one of the things that we did was support and mentor folks. So as veterans, we still need to do that same type thing. We still need to support in the mentoring pipeline to keep the organization viable as well as the veterans viable also. We have questions that need to be answered how do we interact with the VA? How do we interact with medical care? You know, now that we're out and active now. So there are a lot of things that we as veterans can do. And one of the things that I'm trying to do as a veterans rep is to reach out to some of our veterans and get them back into the fold. You know, once we retired, we said, hey, you know what, I'm good. I had a successful career. Thank you for your support and your service. But now we have to go back to our veterans and say, we still need your support and service to mentor not only the active duty folks, but also to mentor and encourage the veterans, because folks are making that transition from active duty to civilian life again. So we're going to do that same mentoring and helpful hand that we had when we were active duty service members.
You know, the one thing I've learned, I've run into a lot of veterans who really don't know about affinity groups like NNOA and others. A lot of them, of course, joined probably the American Legion or the Veterans of Foreign Wars and all. But of course, NNOA, we're up close and personal with all the service chiefs, especially the Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard. You know, I never forget, I spent my summers with the Navy. One of my big efforts as a public affairs officer was running the Great Lakes Cruise operation, the Navy's annual summer Great Lakes Cruise. And of course, we brought Navy FFGs and LSTs either out of Mayport, Charleston, South Carolina, Norfolk, to cruise all 5 of the American and Canadian Great Lake ports. And of course, we spent the whole summer, 3 months, cruising around, hitting, all coming up the great St. Lawrence Seaway, stopping over at places like Montreal and getting down the St. Lawrence Seaway lock system and into Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, Lake Superior. But the thing is, we were hitting all these different towns, starting out with towns like Ogdensburg, upstate New York, going into Toronto, Oswego, Erie, Pennsylvania, Buffalo, Detroit, your lovely city. You love Detroit there, Commander. And of course, all out to Chicago, Muskegon, Michigan, out to Duluth, Minnesota. But the thing is that was fascinating was every time we pulled into ports, veterans would show up to take the tour of our Navy, various Navy ships that we brought in on the Great Lakes cruise. But getting to a point about veterans, man, I never forget sitting out in our command information center, which were the big vans on the docks of those various ports throughout the Great Lakes. Commander Taylor, boy, I ran into so many veterans would come in, and many who had been in for maybe 2 years, 4 years, or 6 years, a lot who got out. And man, you could see they were coming with their ball caps on, and you could see that the love that they had for the United States and the services that they attended. And you know what I heard from a lot of those vets, man? Many used to tell me, Commander, boy, I wish I had stayed in the Navy, or I wish I had stayed in the Army or the Marine Corps, the Coast Guard, or the Air Force. You know, if I had to do it all over again, is the kind of things that they were looking at. And it was just the pride of wanting to help is what I'm getting at. And I think the efforts that you're working there to basically, we do have an avenue. We have an organization that you can, you know, join and get involved because, hey, you know, veterans bring some incredible skill sets, man. I mean, right now, you look at aviation and the aviation community, what kind of skill sets do veterans have right now? A lot of them have gone home and they have been trained by the Navy. What are some of the various fields that they carry those skill sets home and laying on the couch this morning?
Well, hopefully not laying on the couch, but I know with the COVID going on and everything else, we have to do other things to keep from getting PTSD from COVID. But one of the things that we're finding out, and that's why I think we have the push now to actually reach back out and get our veterans involved with NNOA. There are a number of affinity groups, like you mentioned earlier, the Veterans of Foreign Wars and other organizations out there. MOA is out there. They provide services that we can use to transition our folks into and make them, or I shouldn't say make them, but help them be a little bit more comfortable with being in civilian life and a little bit more comfortable with having things that they need to control. I said, as we become older, health is one of the big issues that we have. And to be able to use the networking systems that we have, that we've established in NNOA, continue to use those to answer questions that are out there, because it's amazing. Nobody's reinventing the wheel. You always learn from the life experiences of other sailors and airmen and soldiers that have gone through the gauntlet before you. And NNOA now, in our veterans committee, what we're trying to do is reach back out and use those same ideas, same courses of action that other folks have learned, and use their lessons learned to provide that pathway that we have been accustomed to in our service life. So the skill sets that are out there, you name it, they're there. We want to take advantage of those and continue to breathe life into our organization as NNOA, and also keep our veterans and our active duty service members more involved in what's going on.
We are listening, and you are listening to This is NNOA, our weekly broadcast presenting news, views, and historical perspectives of the sea services of the United States of America, the United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, United States Coast Guard, the Public Health Service, and the oceanographic members of our community. We mentioned the Public Health Service. We are going through, at this time in our history of the United States and America, in fact, the whole world, an incredible and insidious pandemic. It is called COVID-19. It is an insidious disease and virus that is spreading like wildfire throughout our country. And of course, the National Naval Officers Association and all the vets out there, you have skill sets, especially in the medical community, that we're going to be needing as we get a new administration heading into Washington in the next few weeks, which will be next year. But Commander Ernie Taylor, we got a lot of great folk in the medical community. In fact, I was just talking to Captain Simon on the phone the other day, the medical director, Captain, United States Coast Guard Academy at New London. And we got to get him on too.
Absolutely.
Now, tonight, today, on the 14th of November, 2020, you have a Veterans Roundup Zoom conference.
Matter of fact, we're doing that. We're having our third Veterans Roundup. We're usually meeting on the second Saturday of the month at 1800 Eastern Standard Time. Hopefully, the veterans that are out there that have good contact information, you got a reminder in your email. If not, you can contact me at, and I'll give you my email address. It's entaylorjr@gmail.com, or you can go NNOA Veterans Rep @gmail.com. And we can get you that link so you can be a part of that. And it is great to meet and see folks that we haven't seen in years, and folks that we haven't met because they're just making that transition, to welcome them into the fold and to get them active again with some of the duties and the things that we're doing here at NNOA.
You mentioned great veterans. I want to give a big shout out this morning to Lieutenant Commander Richard West, United States Navy, out in San Diego, California. He is one of our founders of the National Naval Officers Association. And I just got an email from Commander Denise McCullough-Crary, United States Navy, our immediate past president. And of course, Commander West has been reaching out, trying to find out what's going on. And I think his email wasn't working. And of course, we got to get back, make sure, you know, Commander West spoke in the 90s, you know, we got to use the United States Public Postal Service system, man, playing no paper and letters to their boxes. And I got to give him a call. When I got that, I was kind of, boy, he checked in, said he hadn't heard from us. And he was really concerned about what happened with the 2020 symposium. So I want to give a big shout out to Commander Richard West, Lieutenant Commander, one of the founders of NNOA out in San Diego, California, Commander Ernie Taylor, on this wonderful day.
You know, Rick, since you mentioned that, one thing we need to make sure that folks do is keep their contact information updated. So I'm gonna put a plug in for going into the NNOA website, nnoa.org, and make sure that your contact information is up to date. It makes it a little bit difficult for us to reach out if we don't have the contact information that we need to get information to you. That includes the Postal Service, so make sure you have your address up to date, as well as your email and telephone number, so we can reach out and contact folks, because there's a lot of things happening, and we want to make sure we get a hold of you and get the information to you.
And of course, tonight at 1800, that's Eastern Standard Time, the Veterans Roundup will be on air, Zoom, and Commander Ernie Taylor will give you all the contact information how to get on board veterans and all. Hey, Commander Taylor, Ernie, I just thought of something incredible. Captain Leon Gilchrist, who was president of NNOA Circular 1982-1983, has a grandson, Jay Gilchrist III, who got his wings of gold. And of course, he was at the squadron, I think the RAG squadron at Naval Air Station Jacksonville, Florida, just a few months ago. And of course, the new airplane that is replacing the P-3 is the P-8 Poseidon. So big shout out to, I think it's Lieutenant J.G., maybe Lieutenant.
It is. As a matter of fact, he's out in Whidbey Island in the P-8 squadron out there now, and he's doing well. I've talked to him just to keep him motivated and keep him going, and he is sending his regards and doing well.
Now, Commander Ernie Taylor, National Naval Officers Association. Is there an association that could be sort of an offspring of NNOA of African-American pilots in the Navy? You guys get together, make sure things are kicking and working things on target for us?
As a matter of fact, there is. We call it BAN, the Black Aviators Network. And I won't call it an underground organization because we don't have officers and the like that, but it's a conduit for passing information in and around, and it's not necessarily just limited to Navy, because we have other aviators from Army and Air Force involved, and anybody just interested in aviation. So it's a network providing information to folks that are interested in aviation, not necessarily just flying, but the entire aviation and aerospace industry.
Yes.
And one big thing that we have going on is today, but tomorrow, the launching of a spaceship is going to have one of our brothers in it.
Yeah, what time is that launch? The Space Next. Yes, we got a brother going up with a 4-man crew to the
exactly
station today. Oh wow, this is incredible! What?
Yeah, Glover is a pilot on that spaceship. It's been delayed until Sunday afternoon, early evening, I think.
Oh, they got
I'd say, but we have we say again. Yeah, it was delayed till tomorrow.
Okay.
Sunday afternoon or evening. I'm not sure about the time. I want to say we have to go take a look at that to make sure, but it's somewhere around 6:30, 7 o'clock Eastern time that they're rescheduled the launch. But of course, we have a brother that's on that one.
Roger that. Hey,
absolutely.
Things are working. Things are getting there.
Right. He's a pilot on that one.
Commander Ernie Taylor is our guest today. He's the veterans rep for the National Naval Officers Association. And this is NNOA. And of course, we're getting in with many more episodes. We're presenting news, views, and perspectives of the National Naval Officers Association, and having as our guest every week outstanding Sea Service members, and also we'll have family members too who have a direct connection to Sea Service members of the United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, and the United States Coast Guard. As I think about the Coast Guard today, I want to give a big shout out to the Elizabeth City State University in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, and they have the only aviation sciences program in the state of North Carolina, Commander Ernie Taylor. And it's a historical African-American university, Elizabeth City State. And what's so beautiful about this moment is that the university is only 2 miles away from the United States Coast Guard Air Station in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, which is the Coast Guard, I think, their biggest and largest aviation facility. So therefore, we got a situation going where this could be a great it is a great training ground to really train African-American aviators for the United States Coast Guard. I'm sure the Navy too would make that, that training.
I would hope so, Rick. Yes. As a matter of fact, just to throw a plug out for that, the director of their program is Commander Orestes Gooden, United States Navy retired aviator. So we have some ties into that. It's not just at Elizabeth City, okay? And the Coast Guard Air Station there, but we got a retired naval aviator that's heading up that program.
Outstanding. And also big shout out to Captain Warren Judd, United States Coast Guard, who was the executive officer of the Coast Guard base at Elizabeth City. And he's a graduate of Elizabeth City State University. And he was President Barack Obama's communications chief at the White House many years ago. So big salute out to Captain Warren Judd. John Warren, hope you have a good time, man. Go Vikings, man. All righty. Well, Commander Ernie Taylor, tonight you're going to be on the air at 1800 with the Veterans Roundup of NNOA, the National Naval Officers Association. Ernie, when you had the Washington, D.C. Convention of NNOA, was it at a hotel or you remember the location? I'm trying to do for my own historical record.
For that first conference that I went to?
That first conference, one in D.C.
It was in Washington, D.C., and it was at the Harambe House, later called the Howard Inn, right there on Howard University.
Yes.
Absolutely. It was the Harambe House.
Yes. Yes. Ed Murphy. Ed Murphy, I think Ed is dead and gone, but he had a big supper club called Ed Murphy's Supper Club. And right across the street, that's when they put up the Howard Hotel, Harambe. Oh man, I was on faculty at Howard many years ago. So, boy, you bringing up some nice memories, kicking off with Captain John Brown, the United States Navy retired, the athletic director at Dillard University. Hey, look, what kind of shit, after Katrina went through New Orleans, how the campus now, able to put the campus back together at Dillard?
They have. It's been a struggle, as in most historical Black colleges, and Dillard being a private school, we had to work a little bit harder than most because of funding and things like that. But after Katrina, they had a slow pitch, and they've been moving steadily in the right direction now. As a matter of fact, I was on campus not this past year, but the year before. Because of COVID, I wasn't there this past year, and they've been making some great strides with doing things. They actually now have a crosstown enrollment for ROTC with Tulane University also.
I think so much of New Orleans because we had a campus liaison, naval campus liaison convention in New Orleans many years ago. Right. And of course, Captain John Brown New Orleans, we had a ball there. And we stayed over at what was the naval base over West Bank, right on the Mississippi River? Naval Sports Center. That's where we stayed and all.
Exactly.
But I'm bringing this up because a name I want to shout out today is Captain Donnie Cochran, first African-American CEO of the Blue Angels, was at the conference. He was, I think he was at that time getting close to the end of his career in the United States Navy, but he was, I think, the deputy to the Naval Recruiting Command. And we were at New Orleans. We had a ball there. But I want to mention Captain Donnie Cochran. Also, I'm going to get Donnie on our This Is NNOA program coming out.
Great.
And of course, he gave a nice presentation at NNOA San Diego a couple of summers ago, which he basically got up and talked about when he was commanding officer of the Navy Blue Angels. And I think Captain Cochran, I think, has been the only brother we've had who was a commanding officer of the Blue Angels. Right, Commander Taylor? I'm just thinking out aloud.
That's a true statement.
And
that's a true statement.
We haven't had another member of our family. Okay, we got work to do.
We got folks in the pipeline, that's for sure.
In the pipeline, which is the important factor. Well, Reuben Wright III, you got a question for Commander Ernie Taylor? His big question is always, what does NNOA mean to you? You've already told us how you discovered NNOA, but I'll kind of, as we get ready to close out our production and our broadcast today, what does NNOA mean to you, Commander Ernie Taylor, United States Navy aviator?
For me, NNOA was family. It provided an opportunity for me to network, to have a relationship with folks that looked like me, folks that had basically the same values and histories of growing up and life experiences. And they provided that stepping stone to, I guess, to a better life. Not just in the Navy, but out of the Navy. Because the relationships and the friends that you made in the Navy, Coast Guard, Marine Corps, you name it. Those are the same relationships that you continue once you take off the uniform, the cloth of the country, and survive. And that was part of the growth process that I went through. And like I said, my plan was to stay for 4 years, but because of NNOA and the contacts that I made, turned it into a career, 23-year career for me. And that was a motivational, life-changing event. And that's why I'm so strong on now, continue to have those same folks still be a part of the active duty group as well as the veterans. You didn't necessarily have to retire because you're still part of the family, you know, when you separate at the end of your obligated service. And that was an emotional part for me, is to make sure that those connections continue to exist after you take off the uniforms that we wear.
I tell you, I have really enjoyed this labor of love and my connection with the National Naval Officers Association. I think so much this morning as we on our broadcast of Commander Denise McCullough Curry and also Captain Mary McAdams, who I first met when I came aboard the organization in the 1980s. And
Rick, I met those two young ladies at that same convention in Washington, D.C.
I call them long distance runners, man. I mean, for the United States Navy, two of my real favorites. And of course, for me, NNOA means so much. I got commissioned in February of 1981, direct commission with the Navy Campus Liaison Officer Program, being a professor of television, radio, and film here at Syracuse University. And of course, as we think about veterans today, I want the veterans to know that I started out in the United States Army. I got drafted. In fact, I tried to get a commission in the United States Navy in 1964 and basically passed all the tests, but I couldn't see. I was seeing 2070 and I need to see 2050 on the eye test that day in Norfolk, Virginia. And of course, what I ended up doing, graduating from Elizabeth City State, went to North Carolina Central, get my master's degree, Commander Taylor, Ernie. And then, of course, you mentioned Vietnam as we kicked off our broadcast today. And it was roughly 1965. My famous student deferment disappeared on that October 15, 1965. I was at home doing sub-teaching and trying to find my way, finishing up my master's degree. And next thing I knew, I have a cousin of mine, like a brother of mine. He's also a pilot too. I got to turn you on to him. His name is Tyus Scott Few. Tyus been a school superintendent down in Halifax County. He's retired now, but he's also a private pilot too. And of course, you got your license at 16. These guys, I love airplanes. Well, anyhow, he went to the mailbox that day at our house in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, came in with a big kind of a smile on his face, said, "Your future has been decided," because I said, "What you talking about?" I got a letter to me, a letter from the draft board. And I thought he looked at me and he said, "I don't know, cuz this doesn't look good, man." So I got drafted, United States Army. And of course, Private E1, went right up the ranks, and of course went in the Army, basic training, Fort Gordon, Georgia. Then I went out to Fort Bliss, Texas, in the air defense program, Hawk missile, electronics missile technician and specialist. And from there, at school, went from roughly March till like September of 1966. My date is 19th January 1966 to all the veterans out there. I let you know this old poor professor who loves the Navy, and I started out in the Army. And then, of course, I didn't want to against you. Yeah, I was, but I'm just indicating, my life. And of course, after I finished school, the Advanced Missile Engineering Electronics course on the Hawk Missile System at Fort Bliss, Texas, in September of 1966, went to Germany. And of course, 32nd Double ADC Air Defense Command, and also had TDY duty with the Army Air Force Motion Picture Radio Television and Armed Forces Radio and all in Germany. But anyhow, I got back home and of course, went into college teaching and all. Then eventually, through the graces of a great professor by the name of Dr. Donald P. Ely, who was my advisor when I was finished with my program at Virginia State, I got to Syracuse University as a doctoral fellow, went through the program here for the Ph.D., left Syracuse, and of course, went back to North Carolina Central. I ran a radio station in New Jersey, went to Washington, D.C., worked for NBC and on faculty at Howard, came back to Syracuse. Wow. My mother died in 1979, Commander Ernie Taylor, to this great audience today. My mother, Miss Lily Mae Wright, she fed all of those sailors of the United States Navy and the United States Coast Guard when things were segregated. I'm talking the 1950s and the 1960s. And the young African-American sailors would leave the confines of the U.S. Coast Guard Air Station in Elizabeth City and the Naval Air Facility at Weeksville, Commander Ernie Taylor. They flew blimps, LTA. Yep. And HS-3, Helicopter Squadron 3 was there. But the young brothers, African-American brothers in a southern city, in the 50s and 60s, they went to the African-American neighborhood. And of course, you out of Miami, you know the story. They the families, like my family, my mother took the sailors in, fed them, gave them a place to stay. If they went out and kind of had a little bit too much libation, couldn't make it back to the base, get a bed for them and everything. But anyhow, mom was dying of cancer in 1979. And one of the last things that Reuben Wright's grandmother, Ms. Lily Mae Wright, said to me on the phone that night, and she was watching the Syracuse McNeese football game. It was the first bowl game that Syracuse had gotten to at Shreveport, Louisiana, on television. And my aunt, who was one of the first Army officers, Ms. Edna Virginia Wright, my mother told me something on the phone that night before she weak, and she said, "Sonny," and that was the nickname she gave me, "don't forget the Navy." And that was really the last thing, true story, that my mother told me before she died of cancer. And then that summer, I was at an air show at Hancock Field in 1980, and there were two Tango 34 Bravos, T-34 Bravos on the ramp that day. Beautiful day, about 70,000 people. The Air Force Thunderbirds were flying. And there was a Naval Recruiting Command set up, the two big, 18-wheelers, one the aviation exhibit and the other for surface warfare. And there were two naval officers there standing next to that T-34, Lieutenant John Roberts and Lieutenant Kurt Yurdy. They were OPO officers wearing the old salt and pepper uniform, the white with the black bottom, pants.
Right.
They looked like something out of Hollywood, man, to me. And I said, my God, naval officers. I said, where you guys from? Are you from Willow Grove or NAS South Weymouth or Pensacola? They said, no, we from Syracuse here. I said, you guys from Syracuse? I know the Navy in Syracuse. I said, no, we part of the Naval Recruiting Command. And then they asked me about myself, and I said I was a professor at Syracuse University. They said, you're a professor at Syracuse? I said, yes. Yeah. Say, had you ever thought of becoming a naval officer? And I told the guys that I tried to become a naval officer when I was finishing up my undergrad work at Elizabeth City State University, Commander Ernie Taylor. And they said, well, hey, you still? I said, look, guys, I'm past the age of 26. And what is the old story? When can you tell a military recruiter is lying? His lips are moving. And I said, you guys' lips? And they said, no, sir, no. They said, do you have a resume you could get us? I said, I got one in my car. I said, no, we'll get you over to your car. Went over and I came back, parked my car. They looked at my resume and said, oh my God, can we forward your resume to our boss, who was Captain Steve Maganka, who was a Commodore of Recruiting Area 1 at the time in Naval Recruiting District Buffalo. And my mother said, don't forget the Navy. My mother died in 1979, Christmas time. And of course, Christmas of 1980, I got a phone call. Of course, I had been doing stuff with the Navy, as a civilian. Got a phone call from Captain Steve Maganka right before Christmas of 1980. And he told me, Professor Wright, Dr. Wright, all of your commissioning documents have been completed. They're sitting on the desk of the Secretary of the Navy awaiting his signature. Wow. And we're going to commission you beginning of the next year. So it was February 1981. But that day of when I got that phone call here in Syracuse, it was 1 year to the date that my mother said, don't forget the Navy.
Wow.
True story. And I sat there in my place and just was silence and just tears were flowing, thinking about what Mom had told me. And then, of course, NNOA for me. Never forget when I got a phone call from the commanding officer NRD Buffalo, who said he wanted to take Lieutenant Chuck Parr, graduate of Prairie View University, who was an African-American officer, part of the OPO team, for you guys to go down to Norfolk, Virginia to the NNOA convention. And I called him back, said, what is NNOA? And he told me, I said, oh my God. So we drove down to Norfolk from Buffalo, Syracuse, New York, and got there. And I never forget walking into that waterside hotel on the banks of the Elizabeth River. And the same thing for me, Commander Ernie Taylor. I couldn't believe the sight I was looking at. A room full of just African-American brothers and sisters wearing naval officer uniforms, Marine Corps and Coast Guard. I was blown away. and Judge John D. Fontroy was president.
Yep.
And he found out I was a professor at Syracuse in the Newhouse School. And he said, Roosevelt, we need help in the public affairs area, and we need to get a newsletter out. Can you help us? I said, I certainly can. And that's when I ran into Commander Denise McCullough-Crary and Captain Merrimack Adams and the whole family. And of course, Captain Monia Blasingame, haven't forgotten your executive VP of NNOA. The list is long. But that was my introduction to NNOA. And of course, it's been an incredible trip. And of course, I kind of got away from the organization in the mid 80s because I was going to active duty every summer. And I didn't get to the conventions and all. And then years kind of went by. And then one day I was talking to Commander Warren Judd just about 4 years ago. And he was saying that he was going to the NNOA convention in Little Creek. I said, my God, Warren, that's my group, man, NNOA. And he said, I'm the Coast Guard rep. I said, and I heard that Commander Denise McCullough-Crary is a president. I said, Warren, please, man, get to Denise and tell her I'm still alive, man. And I got a phone call back, I think later that day from Commander Denise McCullough-Crary. And she said, Captain Wright, we've been looking for you all these years. I said, well, I'm here. Say, we need you. And this is my revitalization.
The rest is history.
The rest is history. Well,
again, reconnecting with veterans.
And that's
what we're talking about. Reconnecting with veterans.
Yes. And I think this story I've laid this afternoon is to, an amplification of your efforts with the National Naval Officers Association and all. Well, this is NNOA, the 14th of November, 2020, our weekly broadcast to all of our membership throughout the entire world. We have chapters from Japan to the Mediterranean, the entire continental United States, and we are headed up by a great admiral, Admiral Sinclair Harris, who is our president. It has indeed been a pleasure to have had Commander Ernie Taylor, Veterans Rep, United States Navy, retired naval aviator. And right now, if you don't see the video side, he's sitting in like a $9 million jet, so his dream came true, and he is the real deal. Ernie, a pleasure having you on the program today. Bravo Zulu to you. And this program has been produced and directed by Roosevelt Reuben Wright III, who is the producer of This is NNOA and our social media consultant and genius, keeping NNOA alive in the year 2020. Ernie, I'll see you on the Zoom tonight, man.
Absolutely. The pleasure was mine, and the service my honor to serve you, NNOA, and the United States of America.
Well, it's a pleasure. Salute you. Bravo Zulu to you. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. God bless NNOA. Bravo Zulu, Captain Rick Wright signing off from our location in upstate New York in the studios of Reuben Wright III. Later, everybody. Go Navy, go Marine Corps, go Coast Guard, go Public Health Service and the Oceanographic Organization. We love you. Check us out next week for another big adventure of News Views Black Perspectives. This is NNOA with more special guests next week. See you later, everybody. Tally ho, away I go. See you later. Bye-bye for now.